Perfect. Thanks for letting me know that you can hear me. Right. I'm just here to say hi. So, my name is Caroline. I'm going to be hosting today. We're going to go through some slides, but I'm also going to answer any questions that you have. So, please fire them at me through the Q&A in the bottom of your screen, and I'll try and answer them as we go. We'll get started. We'll just wait for another couple more people to join, and we'll get started in a couple of minutes. So, just hang tight. Okay, welcome everyone who's just joined. I'm going to switch to sharing my screen now, and I look forward to going through all of this with you. I just wanted to say before we start that if you are listening, then that probably means that you're worried about money at the moment, or you're listening because you have friends or family who are worried and you want to be able to help them. So I'm going to do my best to give you all of the information that we have right now on the financial support that is available to you. As I say, you have the ability to ask questions. There's a little Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So please do use that if you have any questions. I'm also recording this. It will only record me. It doesn't record you, so you don't need to worry about it from a privacy perspective. But if you do have questions as we go, please do ask them, because I'm sure that other people in a similar situation will also have questions, and that could help them. So we'll get started. So, as I said, we're going to go through all the money help that is available to you right now. As you know, it's difficult because things are changing all the time. So I'm going to give you as up to date as I can, and then I'm going to give you access to where on our Lifetise site you can find information that we're updating constantly. Okay, a little bit about us. So what is Lifetise? Who are we? We are a financial technology company, and we help people plan how to afford their life goals. So in times which are better, we help people with things like planning how to afford to buy a home or how to afford to start a family. What we've realized is that as things are happening right now, many people need help just on how do I cope financially. Maybe my income has gone, I'm worried about losing my job. So our mission at Lifetise has always been about helping people to be more financially secure. So what we've decided to do right now is to pool all our resources and help you find the support that you need during this crisis. Okay, we're going to focus on two things. How do you get money in, and then how do you control the money that goes out? And we'll start with getting money in, because for a lot of us, that has been the thing that has changed over the last couple of weeks. We're going to start with help for employees. So this applies to you if you are employed by a company or were recently employed by a company and you're paid through payroll, so you're on PAYE. I'll come on to help that's available for self-employed and freelancers in a bit, but we'll start with those of us who are already employed. Okay, let's start with the worst things that could be happening right now, apart from health. Are you at risk of losing your job, or have you been put on reduced hours? I know that a lot of people, their companies are going through difficulties. Maybe you work in the event space or in restaurants or hospitality, and those businesses have just found themselves having to shut completely. You can't work from home. So literally almost overnight, those businesses are now unable to make any money, and they've had to either let go of a lot of people, or they're at risk of letting go of people, or they're having to put people on either 50%, 80% reduced hours. If this applies to you, then you may have heard that the government has set up this coronavirus job retention scheme. And what this means is that your employer, if they keep you as an employee, then they can get money back from the government through HMRC, and they can get up to 80% of your monthly salary. So the whole point of this is that it's for companies and businesses who might otherwise have to let people go. The aim is that they can keep hold of their employees for a few months just while things settle down, and then they can start trading again when we're in better times. So the way that it works is, not all the detail hasn't been completely ironed out yet because it's brand new. It was only announced at the end of last week. But the basics are that you can get 80% of your salary effectively paid by the government, it's capped at a maximum of £2,500 per month. So what that really equates to is if your salary for your job is £37,500 or less, then this is effectively you're going to be paid 80% of that. If you earn more than that per year, then you're going to be taking less income in. So you are going to have less money coming in than you otherwise would. So again, that threshold is £37,500 would give you, that's going to be like you getting 80% of your normal salary. If you get paid more than that normally, then I'm afraid that it is going to represent a pay cut for you. Now, that 80% gets reimbursed to your company. So some companies, some businesses are struggling right now, right? They're struggling because they've lost their clients and they don't have any revenue coming in. And so some companies may be looking at this and thinking, well, hang on, we can't even afford to pay payroll in the time it's going to take for HMRC to reimburse us. If that's your company, if your company is really struggling now and they're talking to you and saying, look, we might have to let you go because we can't even wait for this to come in, then I would recommend that you tell your company that they should look to apply for one of these Coronavirus Business Interruption Loans. These are already up and running. If you go onto the British Business Bank's website, you can see which lenders are making these loans available, and your company just needs to apply for one of these loans. They're interest free, they can last for up to 12 months, and they can be done quicker than the retention scheme can be put in place. So if you're working for a business that is saying, look, I'd love to keep you, I'd love to do this 80% thing for you, but we can't even hold on to you until we get that, then please ask them to apply for one of these business interruption loans to tide them over so that then the retention scheme can kick in. I'm going to go through a lot of these things and then I'm going to take questions when we get to a natural break point, but please put them in and I promise I'll get to them. So that's if you are at risk of losing your job. And what the government's going to do is they're going to backdate it till the 1st of March. What we don't know is what happens for people who will let go, say, at the end of Feb or before 1st of March. We're hoping that the government is going to include those people in the job retention scheme so that even if you were let go and it was temporary, your employer can rehire you and then they can apply for the 80%. But we're not sure. The detail hasn't been fully worked out, so we're not sure yet, but we'll update our website with the details once we know. Now, what happens if you've completely lost your job? So as I say, if it's a temporary job loss and your employer can rehire you, then the job retention scheme might apply. So you might be okay under that. If not, if you were let go and the job retention scheme doesn't apply to you, then you're going to be generally in a redundancy situation. And what you get in a redundancy will depend on a couple of things. Have you been there for 2 years? If you've worked there for 2 years, then you can get statutory redundancy. If you've been there for less than 2 years, then I'm afraid statutory redundancy wouldn't apply. And the best thing that you could do would be to make a benefits claim as soon as possible. If statutory redundancy does apply, then the amount that you get paid depends on how long you've worked at your employer and what age you were at the time. We've got all of that information on our site. So rather than me kind of spelling that out to you now, I'll signpost you at the end of this talk. So if you're in a redundancy situation, the amount that you're going to get is going to depend on how long you've worked there and what age you were at the time that you worked there. Unfortunately, statutory redundancy is not a huge amount of money. So if you are in a redundancy situation, again, I would recommend that you start looking at what benefits are available to you now. And we'll go on to explain how you do that. Okay, so next one. What happens if you are still employed? So you're still getting your salary right now, but what happens if for whatever reason you get sick with coronavirus and you're unable to actually do the work? So the first question to find out from the company that employs you is, do they offer any form of enhanced sick pay? So quite often in your contract, it will tell you if you get sick, here is how much your employer will pay you for the time that you are sick. So checking your employment contract would be the first thing to do. Some employers will continue to pay you your normal salary if you're sick for up to a certain number of weeks. And that's going to be more generally than you would get under statutory sick pay. If you don't have any enhanced sick pay, if your employer's not going to be paying you your normal salary, then you go down to statutory sick pay. And at the moment, that is £94.25 a week, which for some people is going to represent quite a drop in income from what you're used to. Now, it used to be that to get statutory sick pay, you had to wait 4 days from when you became sick. Now they've reduced that to day one. So if you stop being able to work because you're sick, then from day one, you can apply for this. And you get it through your employer. You get it paid in the normal way that you would get your PAYE salary through payroll. And normally all you have to do is to notify your employer that you're sick, that you can't work, and that you would like to get your sick pay. And then they will process it through payroll for you. Some employers are going to ask you for a notice, so for confirmation that you are actually sick, and you can get that through NHS 111 online. We have all of the links on our site, so I'll direct you to those at the end. And it's very quick and simple. You just fill out a form, and then you hand that to your employer, and then they will process your sick pay through payroll in the normal way. So you would get it, if you normally get paid weekly, you'd get it paid weekly through payroll. If you normally get paid monthly, you would get it paid monthly in the normal way. Finally, what happens if you can't work because everything's been shut down, we're all in lockdown, you're not one of the essential workers, but the nature of your job means that you can't work from home. It's not possible to adapt your work to be able to do it from home. In that situation, again, what we'd suggest is that you tell your employer to put you under the job retention scheme. Now, the important part about that is that you effectively become what's known as a furloughed employee. So you're no longer actually working, you're sort of put on leave for this time, but it allows the government to pay you that 80% that we talked about before. I'm going to pause here to see if there are any specific questions that people have on this as we go. 1 second. So somebody has asked, what is the process for applying for loans? So that would be the loans that employers have to apply for if they're looking basically for something to bridge the gap so they can make payroll, so that they can afford to keep you on whilst they're applying for the job retention. So apparently it's a very straightforward process. Every lender is going to do it slightly differently. But if you go onto the British Business Bank's website, if you Google British Business Bank coronavirus, you'll see a list of the lenders who are making these loans available. You just go onto their websites. Most of them are doing it online. Some of them have phone lines. You can imagine that they're all trying to get up to speed as quickly as possible. So have a look at the various lenders. Some of them will be your own bank. So if you run a business and you're banking with the likes of HSBC, Barclays, etc., they will be making these business interruption loans available to businesses. So get in touch with them. The phone lines are incredibly busy at the moment, so do be patient, do keep trying. And then all of the criteria. So basically, it's open to every business as long as you are turning over less than 45 million. So the idea being that it's intended to support smaller and medium-sized businesses rather than huge businesses. And the criteria apparently is very fair. You just need to give them details of things like the amount of revenue, what your costs are, and then they will just check that you're eligible and take you through the process. But I've heard that they've tried to make it as straightforward as possible because they know that people need these to be in place really, really quickly. Again, they haven't said how quickly they can process them. Again, as you can imagine, they're trying to do things as quickly as possible, but we don't know yet what the turnaround time is. So it's something that you'll need to ask the individual bank how quickly they can get it to you. I would recommend, if you can, going to a bank where you're already a customer, because they'll have so much of the data that they're going to need from you already on record. So have a look, see if it's already your own bank. Somebody else has asked the question, do you get 80% of your gross or net pay? Again, it's a detail that hasn't been completely finalized. HMRC are trying to work it out, but we assume that you will be taxed your both your standard PAYE tax plus your national insurance, but we're waiting on confirmation. But you should assume at this point, until we hear more, that you will be taxed on it. So again, for those who are higher earners, you are not going to be getting anywhere near as much as you expect. So I would be recommending to you to see if there are any top-up benefits available to you. Okay, let's talk about benefits. So I read today that in the last week, more than 500,000 of us have applied for benefits. And I think there's going to be a lot of people listening, and a lot of us who perhaps have never applied for benefits, or if we have, it's a long time ago. We don't really know how to do it. We don't know what we're eligible for. It's completely new for us. I guess one thing I would say is, if 500,000 of us are applying for them right now, that means that there are many, many people in the same situation as us. So if you have any feelings of shame or worry about applying for benefits, please don't. They are set up to help us. This is exactly the type of situation that they are designed for. Please bear in mind that, of course, it does mean that processing times are going to be a little bit slower. I think they had over 100,000 people apply for universal credit just yesterday. So please take your time. Again, at the end, I will signpost you to the phone numbers, to all of the links where you can apply. It will take you a little bit of time. Again, we're not sure exactly how long it's going to take them to process them, but they are adding resources all the time to get more of these claims processed. So please just try and bear with it. I know that we're all in a horrible situation, but they are doing what they can to try and get things processed as quickly as possible. I would suggest that if you don't know where to start, go to a website called entitled2.co.uk. The link is on screen now. That has a brilliant benefits calculator that they have updated for coronavirus. So that will walk you through what you should be entitled to. If you want to just go straight into applying for one type of benefit, then universal credit is the one that most people will be eligible for. There is a 5-week assessment period generally for universal credit, which means that when you apply, it takes 5 weeks on average for you to be approved for it, for them to assess your claim. That's going to be too long for most of us. So what you can do is request an advance payment. So as soon as you verify your identity with them as part of the process, you can request an advance payment, and that can happen hopefully within a matter of days. Again, with the volumes, we're not sure exactly what the turnaround time will be, but it's going to be a lot quicker than the 5 weeks you're going to have to wait. And so what happens is they will make a payment against your ultimate claim. So whatever the amount is that they think that you're entitled to, they'll give you that month in advance, and then you would pay that back over a 12-month time period, or you can pay it back quicker if you choose to. Most people do it over 12 months so that it doesn't add too much to their payments. The link is on screen for how you apply for universal credit. When you do it, you can do it all online. I'd recommend trying to do it online if you can, because the phone lines are just so busy at the moment. What you're going to need to be able to do it is details of your household income, details of how much savings you have. Now, savings is an important one, because a lot of people who are going to be applying for universal credit are going to be applying for it because we're self-employed or we're freelancers, and all of a sudden all of the work that we had has disappeared, completely fallen off a cliff. Now, one of the things they're going to have to work out as part of the package for self-employed people is, generally when you apply for universal credit, if you have savings, then that is deducted against your claim. So if you have under £6,000 of savings, then it doesn't impact your universal credit claim. If you have between 6,000 and 16,000 in savings, then certain deductions are made against your claim, and that will show up when you go through the claims process. Unfortunately, if you have more than 16,000 in savings, then you're not eligible for universal credit. Now, there may be people on this call who have generally hefty tax bills to pay. Maybe your self-employed business makes quite a lot of money and your self-assessment tax bill is large, and you've been putting money aside for that. And you could have potentially 16 grand sitting aside, which isn't technically savings, but would count as savings for universal credit. So if you're in that situation, you're probably going to need to speak to a universal credit claims advisor about how you deal with that, because technically that's money that's earmarked for taxes. So that's universal credit. There are also additional benefits that you can get alongside universal credit. One is job seekers allowance. That is for people who are trying to find work. Again, we're not exactly sure how that's going to work in practice, given that there is not much work available for people. And then the other one is ESA, Employment and Support Allowance. Generally, that's for people who have difficulty because of either disability or chronic illness, and it means that they are restricted in the number of hours that they can work. I'd recommend that your starting point is probably through universal credit, but be aware that there are job seekers allowance and employment and support allowance available to you. Again, I'll signpost you to the link so you can take a look and see whether that would be worthwhile for you. And as I said, the Entitled To calculator is very good at indicating which of these three main benefits you would probably be entitled to. And then there's another angle which a lot of people don't know about, and that is that if you are in hardship and your universal credit application is going to take a while, then you should look up what your local council offers in terms of benefits, because they do offer things like housing support, or they can offer payments which are sort of smaller lump sum payments, maybe £50 or £100, that you can pay towards food, towards energy bills, things like that, things which are more sort of one-off things where you need help right now, and they can make those smaller sums available. So if you are in that situation, then again, please do get in touch with your local council, because they do have various schemes available to people in the local area, and they'll be able to tell you what's available.